Welcome, dear listeners, to a very special Halloween edition of Interviewing Aliens. I am Tiffany, aka Tiffany.
I am Jeff, aka Awake.
As the veil between our world and the next grows thin, we've opened the digital doors of our Discord server to invite our members to come and share their spine-tingling tales. From eerie encounters to ghostly whispers, tonight's episode is a compilation of the spookiest stories that have been shared with us. But these aren't just any tales. They come from you, our listeners and community members. Each story is a testament to the mysteries that lurk in the shadows, the unexplained events that leave us with more questions than answers, and the chilling moments that stay with us long after the tale is told. So turn down the lights, get cozy under a blanket, and maybe keep a flashlight handy. Join us as we journey into the unknown, where every story is a step closer to the mysteries of the universe. Let the haunting begin.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. The format we've already talked about, you're just going to share a story. Whoever would like to go first can go ahead and unmute themselves.
Okay, hello. I am
Hello.
Phoenix, aka Floral Twig, and I didn't think I had a scary story, but I've had some scary dreams. And one of them, probably the spookiest ever. Imagine you're 16 and your primary care physician has put you on an antidepressant for the first time ever. And it's not one that anyone under 25 should take. So you feel really funky and weird, and it's just like a bad time. But you're smart, so you're like, I'm gonna wean myself off of this, as the adults would do. And you start doing that, but you still have all the crazy symptoms like disrupted sleep and hallucinations and just all the things. Well, I made the mistake of going to see a scary movie, and it was As Above, So Below. Still, if I watched that, I think I'd be pretty scared. But I went to bed, or tried to. And once I finally got to bed, I had my first sleep paralysis experience. There was this life-size Barbie doll that was passed down to me from older cousins, and she was not right. Okay, she was stained, and you could not run a brush through her hair. She wore like a pink tutu, like a ballerina outfit, and I knew where she was. She was in my mama's closet, in the top of the closet, so I know that. But I'm laying in bed, and I'm awake, but I'm not awake, and I can't move my body, but I can turn my head, I guess, because life-size Barbara, is staring at me, is standing in my room staring at me. And I'm like, that's upsetting. I don't like that at all. And I finally am able to look away. Because there's nothing I can do. I can't push the Barbie away. I can't I'm paralyzed, sleep paralysis, it's like in the name. So I turn my head, and at the foot of my bed, something worse. Something not not an actual object in my home, but this ghoulish set of twins with dark hair and pale skin, and they are crouched at the foot of my bed, just looking at me. Just staring at me. I feel like I didn't do a good job of building suspense here, but I'm not much of a scary storyteller. But regardless, this was wildly upsetting. I don't know how, but I finally managed to scream, like, in real life. And my grandfather came running. Well, not really running. He was a little too old to run, but he came to my aid, and I didn't even tell him. I didn't even tell him about it. Like, I was already feeling crazy, so I was just like, "Oh, I had a bad dream. Can I have a Coke?" And that was it. And it's still to this day, I've had a lot of sleep paralysis experiences, but nothing hits quite like that first one. It is so disorienting, so jarring. But yeah, that's my one and only contribution of the night.
Wow. That sounds terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it was like super not cool.
Yeah, Barbara and the twins can stay far away from me. Thank you.
Yeah, they can fuck off, like, for real. Barbara and the twins.
Well, thank you very much, Phoenix, for sharing that.
Thank you guys for doing this.
All right. Next up is going to be Rainbow Goth Guy.
Okay. So, I'm calling this Tales from the Assisted Living.
Ooh.
So,
Dun, dun.
so last year, I was working as the administrator of this assisted living facility in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And when I went in, I'm having to like field complaints from all the staff, all the residents, the families, everything. And I noticed there was this everybody was angry, like, all the time. Like, all the staff was angry about somebody, and it was always somebody else's fault. They did this and they did that, and on and on and on. Like, no one would take responsibility, no one would do anything for themselves, but everybody was like angry, and it was always somebody else's fault. So I got reports one day that this one girl had gotten into this argument with one of the kitchen staff, and she had said something racially disparaging about this kid. And so, of course, I have to do an investigation about this, because anything like this, you got to talk to everybody, whatever. So we brought in, the kitchen staff that heard it, and the kid that she was talking about, and whatever. And we bring this girl in to talk to her about it. She's, we tell her, this is what this person heard you say, such and such about this other kid. Is that true? And she's like, no, it's not true. I would have never said, the racially disparaging thing, but I would have said that he's a worthless piece of shit and he's terrible at his job, and she popped off and went off. And I was like, okay. Do you see how that's problematic? Your reaction to what we're saying. And we were like, okay, well, we gotta so she left, and she was real mad about this, that we had to talk to her. I'm working on other things in my office. Then it's dinner time. People are getting people ready for dinner. I come in, and somebody comes into the office. They're like, so-and-so is in there. She's stomping around. She's cursing in front of the residents. She's threatening people. She's saying how terrible the place is. It's a piece of shit, blah, 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 cursing in front of the thing. So I walk out there to talk to her, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she says, she's like, I don't know. What do you see? Don't I look perfectly calm right now? I'm like, you sure do, but they just told me that you're in here cursing. What's going on? You don't see me cursing, do you? I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, you can't be cursing in front of the residents. You've got to calm down. Whatever. So I leave the room. 5 minutes later, a different person comes in and tells me exactly the same thing. She's doing it again. She's threatening me. She's up in my face. Blah, blah, blah. I go in again. She does this thing of like, well, I'm calm now. So what does it matter? You're not seeing it directly. So it doesn't exist outside of your, whatever these other people say doesn't matter. And then I went, and it was like a third time she did the same thing. And I said, you got to go on your break. And then I told her to go home because I'm like, we got to like figure this out. Cause I don't, this is not a safe environment for you, whatever. The reason this is spooky, because there was this pattern of behavior like going on and on and on through all the people like that stepped foot in the building. They stepped in there, and then it was like taken over by this feeling. Earlier this same day that I had to talk to this girl, another one of the managers, they're like, you know what's weird? Somebody, we were all in the dining room and we all smelled wet dog all at once out of nowhere. I was like, ugh, okay. There's something else going on here besides just this girl is having a personality disorder. So had to like send her home. I'm like trying to shake this off. I get in my car, and the first song that's playing is a Fear Factory song called Self-Immolation. So I'm up burning yourself down, lighting yourself on fire. And the song after that is a song by a metal band called Prong called Self-Righteous Indignation. This is very funny, like timing. So I went back, and like the next day I like brought salt to the place. I was like salting the exits. I was trying to like call people in. And that's like, you know, to like clear this parasite out of the building. And this like experience like got me into like clearing spaces. It's why I purchased the Exorcist Handbook from Josephine McCarthy, and got me figuring out how to like tune this weird place that I worked, to keep like weird entities from coming in, because it's just such a strange like transit portal place, people dying all the time, coming in and out, all kinds of mental illness and dementia. I don't know if I did it because it was still a very strange place when I left, but that's my terrifying tale about energetic parasites in the assisted living.
Well, it's crazy to think about how, like, I don't know, rogue spirits or rogue entities or whatever could take over a place like that. You think about it, like, so many people are like not in their correct mental space that they're just really susceptible to those energies. And for those who are listening who don't know, Rainbow Goth Guy is our local death worker here. So this is something that he now does, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, much better at clearing, much better at kind of recognizing when this stuff is happening before it gets out of hand. Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. All right, does anybody else have a story?
I do have a small one. I have a quick story. This story takes place in a time before I have real memory, I suppose. But so a lot of this is just context that was provided by my family members. But when we're in 2002. It's like November. And I'm like 2 years old, and my parents are having a second child, and this child is born with like a blood disease, so she only lives for like 2 or 3 days before she dies of this blood disease that she was born with. And so, this is before, so I'm like 2.5 years old or whatever. So I don't really like understand what's happening, and how this whole experience like affected me is like a whole other story, for like another day. But like, she died, and then my parents were obviously very distraught, but they had me, so like they did everything they could to just keep the crying like away, the crying and the upsetness like kind of away from me, like in closed doors, and like try to like kind of minimize how much like it might affect me, and how much I might blame myself or whatever for like their grief and everything. So but one night, so my mom didn't like make any mention really of any of their plans or anything like that. So, but one night, it's the night before this child, Grace, this baby child, is going to be cremated. And the night before, my mom is just, in a room like with a closed door, and she's kind of quietly weeping. And I guess I just like came in there and came up to her and said, Grace is going into the fire tomorrow, as like a 2.5-year-old child. And she was like completely stunned, because there was no way that I would have really known about the cremation, or understood what that meant, but somehow I knew.
Whoa.
And that's pretty much the story. Like, she has other tales about like me talking about angels and stuff like that, and like other eerie experiences, but that's the main one that's always stuck with me, that for some reason as an infant I just like understood that there was going to be a corpse going into the fire the next day. I don't understand what that's about, but if I was my mom, I would have been pretty creeped out by that, to be honest.
Yeah, early on page premonitions here.
Grace is going into the fire tomorrow.
Whoa.
Happy Halloween. Yeah, we have like, my friends and I have stayed at like a haunted hotel and talked to a ghost that was living in the like in the hotel there with a pendulum and everything. But to be honest, I just don't remember it super well. It was like several years ago, so I don't really have a great story about that. But definitely, pretty much everybody I know has a ghost story, so I bet there's a whole bunch of other people who'd be much obliged
For
to tell a
sure.
ghost tale tonight. I want to hear some more ghost stories, guys.
Well, I've got a ghost story for you, and some of you already know this, but I lived in a haunted house in Crown Point, Indiana, at one point in life, and my roommate and I started just like from the very beginning, started noticing things, like just sounds. It sounded like walking, like our cabinet doors would open, our animals would act strange, and we just kind of like blew it off. We didn't really, think much about it. And like the more that we ignored it, the more like intense things got. And like I can really remember it taking off one night. I think it was Halloween night. We had people over, and you know we were telling ghost stories, and like we kept hearing all these noises, and scaring each other, and whatever. The liquor was flowing. And shortly thereafter, I thought we were both home, and I got in bed because I had to work in the morning, and our garage door goes up in the middle of the night. And my roommate and I, like, we were just separated by one wall. Our heads are on each side of the wall. So like I knocked on the wall. I was like, "Are you home?" Like, what the hell? And we open the door, we turn the lights on, and all the lights in the house go off, and like we just like panic, freak out, like whatever. Like, well, it's just super weird. And so like the next night we were both dating, and like we had our significant others over or whatever, and we were like all sitting in my bed, and just like talking about it and talking about like all the weird stuff that was going on, and like how the cats at nighttime would just fucking lose their shit. Like they would just be screaming all night. There'd be like big clumps of fur everywhere, you know. I don't know, it's just really strange. And as we're like talking about it, we all notice like the temperature in the room gets really cold, and we're like, oh, whatever, it's fine. So we like got under my covers, and then like we're talking about it more and what we should do. And then like the guy I was dating, he like jumps out of bed and he's like, what the fuck? What the hell? Oh my God. And like throws the sheets off of him and like pulls his pants down, and there's this big giant scratch down his leg, just this huge scratch. And they, obviously they didn't go over well. And he was like, I'm not staying here tonight. And I was like, okay, it's fine. See, whatever, completely freaked out. Everybody was. And like my roommate left with her boyfriend, and so it was just me, and I had to work in the morning, so I like didn't have I was just like, whatever. I just like shut and locked my door, and like put a towel underneath my door because the cats would scream and I didn't want to hear that, and whatever. And I wake up at like, I don't know, 3 in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, and my door's wide open. The cats are like pawing at my face. They're both on my bed, and I like can't move. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like trying to look around, and I can see like the lights from my like cable box and my fan, and like it looks like something walks in front of it, like something like walked in front of it, like the lights kind of went off or whatever, and then they just completely turn off. And I'm like, from the bottom of my bed, this like energy comes from my toes and goes over the top of my head, like through the wall, and everything turns back on. And I was like, oh, okay, what the fuck is this? Of course, I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I got up early and went to work, and I'm like talking to people at work, and these Hispanic women are like, we're gonna come over, we're gonna like bring holy water, do the whole thing. They came over, they like walked around the house a couple times, and they were like, you need to get out of here. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, like, yeah, I didn't really take anything seriously back then. I mean, whatever. And I get a call at work from my neighbor saying there's water coming through their walls. And like, I get home, and there's 3 feet of like water and sewage in my basement where the animals are kept. And Vinny's just like floating in his cage. Like, it was an absolute nightmare. Like, I felt like it was attacking the animals, tried to kill them. Like, we got out of there as quickly as possible. We actually had an attorney friend write our landlord a letter, and like they didn't want to like replace the drywall and do everything. So we just said that it was like they were trying to create unsafe living conditions, and he just wrote a letter, like a nice little threatening letter to get us out of that lease. But we got the hell out of there like within days. It was crazy.
Holy shit.
Yep. Haunted houses.
Yeah, well, your current house is haunted, Tiff.
Yeah, it is, but it's a nice ghost. I think it's a cleaning ghost. I don't know.
Yeah, well, except for when it's starting random fires.
Yep, that happened. I don't know if that was the ghost or if that was like some spirit message, but yeah, there was a time during some really dark days in dark days in life that my friend came over to check on me, and she came in, and of course the house is all pitch black, and because I've been in bed all day, and she comes in my room, and we hear some like weird noises, and we go out in the living room, and there's just a full-blown fire in my fireplace. There was no fire in it prior to. There was no reason for the fire to be there. It was, yeah, that happened. That also happened. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, we do have like a haunted Roomba. And I feel like that ghost is nice because it like will wake me up when I forget to set my alarm. But yeah, that's my haunted spooky story. One of them.
Right on. Well, I'll tell a quick story about my first supernatural encounter. my family and I had taken a trip up to the Lake Michigan dunes in Indiana, and we did this every year. And we stopped for the night at a Motel 8. And to this day, I will not stay at Motel 8s. And we were staying on like the third floor. And it was like kind of a U-shaped building. And like if you looked out of the window, you could see like the mezzanine and the rooms on the other side of the building, and like the lobby in the middle. I guess it was a motel, so it was all outdoors. But I remember, I don't know if we were just broke or what, but we stayed in like a room that had like just one bed in it. So my sister and I were sleeping on the floor. And it was pretty late. Everybody was asleep and I'd woken up and I saw like some weird lights outside. And like I'm laying on the floor, I can see underneath the like blackout curtain that was drawn. Like, because it was like a full wall window. And like so I'm laying there on my pillow on my side and looking out this small little crack, and across the way I can see something that looks like it's like flying or hovering at another window across the way. And like I try and wake my sister up, and I'm like, sis, wake up, what's going on? And I look out and all of a sudden it turns and it looks towards me. And it like flies towards our window like really quickly, and then just buzzes off straight up into the sky. I don't know if it was like a fairy or an alien. My parents tried to tell me it was a window washer, but like I don't know why there'd be a window washer at 3 a.m. You know, but yeah, that was my first encounter there.
Yikes. A window washer. That's great.
Yeah, the dastardly 3 a.m. window washer. Okay, who else has a story?
I'll go next. I currently don't live with my mom, but I did live with my mom for about like almost 4 years, and it's a like pretty good sized 1-bedroom apartment. But I remember before I had moved in with my mom, she used to tell me about this, like, so let me kind of lay out where, like, how the apartment is. So in the kitchen, if you're like standing in front of the stove and you're cooking something, to the right is the hallway. And the hallway goes into like the bathroom and the 1-bedroom, right? So she would tell me sometimes she would see, like, out of the corner of her eye when she was cooking, she would see like a man in like a white t-shirt, like standing there. And then when I moved back here to California, she, like, for whatever reason, she completely like did not see this like spirit or like this ghost. And when I was living there, I used to like sleep. I would sleep in the living room, and there were many times where I would just be like laying there and like getting ready to go to sleep, and then kind of like out of nowhere, I would hear, and he would say it exactly like this. I would hear, "Hello," and I would trip out. I'd be like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I felt like his name was Tom. I'm not sure really much more information about him, but I used to be like, Tom, like, leave me alone. Like, I'm trying to go to sleep. And so when I was living with her for the longest time, I used to tell my mom, hey, like, you know, Tom is like for sure real. And like, Tom is kind of like, you know, he kind of like messes with me sometimes when I try to go to sleep. And she used to tell me like, you know, I don't know about Tom, you know, I think you're just like imagining things. Until one night she was sleeping on the couch. I don't remember why or where I was at, but she said she was sleeping on the couch in the living room. And it was when we just got our puppy Lola. She was still really small, where she would like sleep at our head. And so she said that while she was sleeping on the couch or trying to go to sleep, Lola started growling, and her like hackles went up, like her fur just shot straight up, and she tried to make herself look really big, and she was growling, and my mom turned to look at what Lola was growling at, and she said she saw this like this orb of light, like kind of just like floating in circles in like the corner of the living room. And so she grabbed Lola, and she just kind of held Lola and just kind of looked at it like, what the heck is that? So Tom is not just he doesn't like to just stay in my mom's apartment. Our next door neighbor, she's a really nice lady. She's very like into like spiritual stuff like this as well. She's talked about Tom kind of like crossing over into her apartment complex a couple times. And he kind of like messes with her and messes with her sister, who comes to visit sometimes. And she said that one time her and her sister were talking in like the kitchen or something like that. And suddenly Tom like pulled her sister's hair. And our neighbor, I can't remember what other instances my neighbor has talked about seeing Tom, and like how Tom is kind of like, messed with her. But yeah, Tom, I don't know what he has, I don't know if he's really like a good ghost or a bad ghost. Maybe he's just like a little mischievous. There's been a couple times when I lived there too, like I would be in the shower, and I'm thoroughly convinced that he like died in the bathroom or something, because there were so many times when I would be in the shower and I would hear like screaming and hear like, it's like an agonized, like in pain scream. And I would literally have to like stop the shower and be like, hello, like, is anybody home? Or like, I would sit there and like try to listen and see. And it would like almost immediately stop after I turned the shower off. So yeah, that is my scary story about Tom, the ghost who inhabits the apartment, my mom's apartment and my mom's neighbor's apartment.
Wow. Tom sounds like a rascal.
Animals always know, though. They always know.
do, for sure, yeah. We were talking earlier about I mentioned earlier the idea that the veil is thinning. I feel like that's happening more and more. In the other Discord, the AOD Discord, Bianca posted a story about seeing a car like clipping through the ground. I don't know if you guys caught that or not. But the last few times I've been driving from Birmingham, where I am now, to either Atlanta or Knoxville, I keep having situations where cars appear like they're approaching to pass me, and then I'll like turn and look, and there's just no car there.
I have gotten that like 3 times this week.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And like I get that anxiety that I feel when I know someone's trying to pass me.
Same exact thing.
Yeah, and then it's just not there. It's so weird. I don't know. I think
that actually happened to me today.
Crazy. What about you, Elliot? You got a scary story for us?
Well, I think. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I have some family friends from Bedford, Indiana, and we lived there when I was younger, and when I was in high school, we went to visit this family for spring break, and they lived in this old house. It was super pretty, but they said that it was haunted, and I thought that they were just like messing with me. And we were staying like in this room upstairs, and so here I am, like, I guess I was taking a shower or something, and then the lights like flickered, and I just thought someone was messing with me. And then like the next day I was in the bathroom again, and all of a sudden like there was like a radio that was sitting like on the countertop, and it just turns on. It was like kind of loud, and yeah, I was definitely like creeped out. It was spooked, but it was like really just like it was very playful. Like I didn't feel like scared or anything. It wasn't like a scary energy. It was just like, hey, I'm here. And at first I thought, someone was messing with me, but I think it was a ghost.
Somebody was messing with you.
You just made me remember a whole thing. So
Because I forgot about that.
I too grew up in Bedford, Indiana. My family's from Bedford.
Love that.
And my grandma lived across the street from a cemetery. So I was always like riding my bike or like taking the dog for a walk or just over playing in the cemetery because I didn't know what the fuck a cemetery was. It just was a place that I spent a lot of time. And like over and over again, I would come back and my grandma would be like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Oh, there was just a really nice lady. She, liked my bike or whatever." And she would look at my grandpa, and it took me like years to figure out I wasn't talking to anyone. Like I was talking to people that weren't there.
What? Like lots of people?
Like often, like about every time I went over there.
That's crazy.
My grandparents would always I think that I don't know, they never like wanted to scare me, but they would always give each other this look when I'm like, there was this little boy and da 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 da.
Wow.
They would just look at each other. And it took me years to realize. I like asked my mom about it. And she was like, "Oh, we just assumed that you were just like making imaginary friends." I'm like,
I had a lot of imaginary friends. I actually lived like behind that cemetery, but on the other side of the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And I had hella imaginary friends. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. Who is next? Rick, it sounds like you got a story.
Okay, only because Jonathan reminded me.
Sounds great.
Okay, Jonathan, you're going to have to help me out with this, though, because there's two sides to this story. That's pretty fascinating. And he's part of it, is the weird part. So, I'm single, and I'm meeting women and staying over their houses and things, as single people do, or at least like newly single people do. And this girl is pretty woo, in the sense of like, she's just, tarot, spirits, all that kind of stuff. And she invites me over to her house because she's in the middle of a divorce and she's staying at her parents' house, which is a really nice house in Richmond. And her parents were out of town, so it felt very much like early college type thing. She's like, "Let's come to my house. We'll drink the really nice liquor and play pool and like all that stuff." So I was like, "Cool, I'll bring my sound bath stuff over there and we'll do a sound bath before we go to bed." And I'm a little bit weird. I'm weirded out by it because it's just like, it really is kind of a random person's house. Like, I know her from a few years ago in a different context, but I'd never been to her parents' house, So for me, it's still kind of weird to be like, I'm going to stay over night in this house. And we just like have a great time hanging out. And then right before the sound bath starts, as I'm setting things up, she's like, "Oh, I just want to let you know, like, I have seen some spirits in this house before, and I don't know what they mean. I'm not really sure what they're here for, but they seem to like be around this house a lot." And then she told me the story when she was younger, like in her early teens. She was in her bedroom. She woke up at night, and this woman was walking down the hall and like crossed across her door from the hallway, and stopped and looked at her. And she was like this really beautiful, like glowing, radiant blonde woman in this kind of blue suit, like a space suit, And she looked the woman just like stops in the hallway and looks over at the girl and smiles at her like in this really beautiful way, and she's like literally glowing, and then just walks down the hallway and disappears, right? And that was when she was young. And so I pull up these pictures of Pleiadians, and she's like, yeah, that's basically what it looks like. Like, that was what she looked like. And so I'm thoroughly freaked out at this point because I'm in this person's house and I don't know enough about protecting myself spiritually. And, but I'm doing the sound bath. I'm like, getting ready to do the sound bath. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, she didn't tell me that story right then. That was earlier. But then she kind of, like, right before I started, she mentioned how there's just like this weird spiritual energy in this house and she doesn't know what to do about it. So I'm sitting there in my sound bath, basically like consistently creating this etheric egg of protection around the house with the sounds that I create. Not that I know if that's even working or whatever. Like, that's what I'm like furiously doing while I'm doing the sound bath. And I kept saying to myself, I'm going to have a really amazing, very deep, relaxing sleep. Like, as in like an intention before I go to bed. It's going to be a super easy, no stress. Nothing's going to happen tonight. I'm going to sleep really deeply and it's going to be great. And then like fast forward to the night, we go to bed and I just toss and turn all night. And like, I don't think I get any sleep. I can't remember anything that I don't remember. I remember sleeping for like a little bit basically. And it was super uncomfortable. And I felt like I was just awake all night, uncomfortable. In the morning, though, she's like, yeah, you were snoring like this kind of dead cat most of the time. And like, I heard you tossing and turning, but like, you were snoring in this way that like, I don't have heard anyone snore before, and I couldn't sleep because of it. And I was like, that's weird because I don't remember sleeping at all night. And so needless to say, like, whatever my intention was didn't happen. And I wonder if the egg also happened. Because I kept saying, like, protected spiritually all night with this etheric egg that I'm contributing to with the light that I create. That was part of my kind of consistent intention. And then the next day, I'm going to pass this to Jonathan. Basically, the next evening, Jonathan just texts me randomly. He's like, "Hey man, are you okay? Like, I just want to check in on you. Are you doing okay?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. But yes, I'm fine, thank you." And then we talk on the phone, and then I'm gonna let him do his side. Okay, you go.
Yeah. So the night before I messaged him, I was just sleeping normally. And I like 3 separate occasions throughout the night, like way early in the morning, I woke like stark up, like out of my bed, like there's someone here. I need to find them. Where are they? He's supposed to be here. Where is he? That was like like with a purpose, like, but still half asleep, like this very strange, like, I was like, where is he? He's supposed to be here. And I'm looking around my apartment, my very small apartment. And then being like, what is going on? What's going on? And then like happened again. Just like never before have I had this level of like, I have these kind of like half sleep, half awake dreams a lot that I'm like kind of learning. I think spirits are kind of hanging around me. But it was so clear of like, he's here. Where did he go? I need to find him. And at one point I was like, I think it's Rick. Why is it Rick? Why is Rick like hanging? Why is he in my apartment? So I like the next day I was like, I should just check on him. It was so specific and so strong. I'm like, it's just like, what's going on, man? How are you doing? And then he tells me this tale of like, he's like sending out this call for spiritual protection, and somehow it got to me in Oregon. And so I don't know if I did anything to like protect him from whatever was in that house, but the call came through. But don't know if it was to the appropriate person.
Because like I love it because the what you said to me was the call was coming from inside the egg.
Yeah, amazing.
Does anyone else have a story?
I have like a really short one.
Okay.
And I think Callisto reminded me of this the other day. Like when I was a kid, I had a sleepover and we were all like just goofing off in my living room and like telling spooky stories, trying to freak each other out kind of thing, you know? And this big, like the whole room like lights up with this like bright, bright light. And then we wake up the next morning having no recollection of like how we got to bed, like as my lights are flickering right now as we are talking. Had no recollection of how we went to bed because we hadn't made our beds or done any of that stuff yet. We were still just goofing off. We all woke up like in our beds, in our pajamas, like with no recollection of the rest of the night, how the rest of the night went. So I don't know what happened that night or why, but there was like 5 girls that I grew up with that we all like just, I don't know. It was really, really strange. So whatever that was.
Wow.
You got
Have you-
abducted, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounds like to me. I'm a little bit curious. Have any of you had experiences with like I've seen a few times when certain people who are like, you know, possessed by chaotic energies or they're carrying something dark with them, and if they like get inebriated or they're really tired, like people get black eyes, like their eyes turn all black.
Ooh.
Have you guys ever had experiences with that sort of like in my experience it's like it's most likely to happen when somebody gets like really drunk and
Yeah, my ex
or something.
that for 6 years.
Well, and then they get to this point where like their like regular persona like slips out of their body and then they just like their eyes turn like way bigger and blacker. And then they're well, not that their eyes get bigger, but the black part just consumes like the iris is like turns the eye black, and then they just start to act fucking demonic, basically. Not like Exorcist demonic, like scary movie demonic, but when almost like an uncanny valley feeling when somebody is like somebody's energy just feels way off, dude, and it feels like they're like a darkness has entered the room within them, you know. I've seen that happen quite a few times, and I'm like, is this like, do other people notice this? Is this like, you know, if you consider demonic possession, right? It's like you can go with the media, whatever, you know, something might come to mind, but in my experience, like these demons that people talk about, they're like kind of energies that are like living off of you and around you in a parasitic way, like feeding off your energy, right? But like they do have like a degree of consciousness, it seems. But it's like to me it seems that sometimes when people are carrying these sorts of energies and they don't know it, when they kind of like slip out of their ego and like lose control, like those energies kind of rise up and start just driving the body. So I was kind of curious if anybody just had any experiences with that sort of stuff.
I've never had experience with the black eyes, but I've definitely had, calling it an opportunity is weird, but I'll still say it. I've had the opportunity to sit with some people who were definitely not themselves and had the opportunity to like talk them down from making like really rash, like dangerous decisions. And I can definitely understand that feeling of the like, they just seem possessed. They're not like wild, but they're unhinged, I guess I'd say.
For sure. For sure. Like and it's always here's the thing with like spooky stories, paranormal stories, ghost stories and stuff, like, or even when you get to stuff like the skinwalker shit or whatever, like when you're having like a paranormal experience, it's like such a visceral experience, and you have this like extreme survival instinct kick in that you probably don't even otherwise know exists, where it's like you are in extreme danger, right? Or like there's something very, very wrong here. And, you know, sometimes it's like if you're spotting something in the woods or something, or if you're in a haunted house and you see a ghost or you hear noises, like you can trace where that's coming from. But a lot of the time, if you're like around people and somebody, like a living person in the room, kind of slips into a more like demonic type state, for lack of a better word, like you just like feel like this sense of unease and like something's so fucking wrong right now, but you don't know exactly where it's coming from depending on, you know, what the context looks like. So but I guess there's just something to be said about that feeling that you get when something's not right, and this is sort of, I guess, a way to just try to understand that. But it's been a real very real experience for me, and I wonder how common it is, because I know in my experience I've seen people become pretty demonic like when they've drank alcohol, like, and that's not
Oh,
the
yeah.
only context, but that's a big context of it. And I know that alcohol is like super popular around the world, so I'm like, there's gotta be, you know, there's gotta be other people talking about this, but I just haven't really seen it much.
I knew someone that had a sleep paralysis like all the time. It was just like on the regular thing. They were also like drank a lot, had a lot of, you know, personality issues kind of thing. But I would watch them, especially if they were drinking, like their whole, like their body language would change, their face would change, their eyes would change. It was like, oh, I'm in danger. Like just like you said, I need to get away from this. Like, you know, it was very intense experience. They had also like had multiple experiences, paranormal experiences their entire life. Like, you know, it kind of followed them from house to house and from place to place. But yeah.
I've always associated those kind of feelings with just being like really highly empathetic. But I mean, maybe there's something more to it there. Like, I've always felt like I've been pretty good at reading people's vibes, and I can definitely tell when a vibe changes.
I get to be like in the animes or whatever, when there's like when like this ghost hunter person, no, I don't want to be a ghost hunter per se, but I would love to be the kind of energy worker where, like, you know, you walk into a public place and there's like a person that just has something like perched on their shoulder or whatever, just something that is, you know, obviously invisible to them, but there's some kind of energetic parasite kind of feeding off of them, and then you can go and I mean, obviously there's some like balance and artful balance to like consent in this sort of thing, but like, you know, you can just go out and sense and trace these energies and these spirits that might be like attached to these people, and then like clear it off of them. And I think that would just like it might sound kind of sci-fi, but like I feel like that would just come with a level of like honing your skills for perception and obviously like energy work and spiritual labors of expelling spirits properly and stuff, because that's not something to like throw around too lightly. But it'd be so cool to just go around like knocking spirits out of people who like don't realize why they feel so drained, you know?
If you're looking for clearing services, please see our in-house shaman, Pete Martocci, the blue collar spiritualist.
Paige, you should just go to like a rave or a concert of some kind and just try and clear as much of the bad juju as you can. That just seems like it'd be fun practice.
In my experience, music festivals don't even need it. Like, they're
True.
just doing great. Like, I mean, definitely there are people who would still need that, but I mean, I'm thinking like just out in public. Like, the visual I always get from, I don't even know which anime, but like it's like just like a cashier at some like regular store, and then he walks up and it's just on their shoulder, and it's like, is this bothering you? Like, how's your neck feel? Like, and they're like, oh, it's been really hurting lately. Like, and then he just like gets it off of them, and I'm like, that seems actually realistic. Like, I could see us doing that, like being just like energetically literate to the point where we can detect like energy work that needs to be done. And I guess, speaking of music festivals, sorry to jump in on your podcast, but like I have had experiences at a music festival where it was like really late, like 2-3 a.m. sets, and I've been dancing for hours and tripping and stuff, and then my neck and shoulders are just starting to feel really, really sore in like a specific spot. And I'm not making any movements I'm just dancing. Like, I'm like, it hurts, but it's okay. It's not like crippling me. And then this random stranger comes up from behind me, and she starts massaging me in like the specific spots where it's sore. Just a complete stranger. And
Yeah.
I was like, I had my mind blown. I turned around to her after she was like done, and I was like, how did you know? Like, and she was like, I'm just really, I think she said, I'm just really intuitive with my hands. And that has really stuck with me because, like, everybody has their little strengths, but we can tune like these little aspects of our experience into like well trained muscles. And and I'm sure in her case, I would wager that she just started doing what her hands felt like doing more, right? Like, just like trusting in those impulses to do these things, and then discovered that there's a lot of wisdom in it. Like, we all have ways of doing that where we can go around and just like be healing and helping people as part of our everyday life. And I think that's really needed in a time like this, where it's like there's so much chaos and people feeling lost and carrying a lot of weight around with them, like we can find our little ways to just kind of like help each other out.
Paige, you were talking about like seeing spirit and stuff like that, like spirit like attached to people and whatever. And I don't have any personal experience with that, but I have a really good friend who does see stuff like that, and it like was really like a crippling part of her life for like many, many, many years. And she just like recently, like in, I don't know, the beginning of this year, like opened up for like help dealing with it. And like, she always kind of like hinted at it, but like never really like came forward. And then when she finally like talked about it, she said like every night, like she would get visited by this like scary man, and it would like sit on her bed and like warn her about all this like crazy shit that was going to happen to her. And like, it was just like freaky, and like she couldn't like figure out who it was. And then she'd be like walking around in her daily life, and she would see spirits. And she always pushed it down because she would say stuff when she was little, and her family was like super religious, and they had her exorcised like twice, and like, just denied, and like just called in like the church and like whatever, and just denied everything. So she really, it wasn't like something that she was like taught to like deal with, or, you know, whatever. So she like was talking to me and Pete one night about it, and Pete was like, I feel like the person like with you, but it doesn't feel scary. So like they're talking it through and like whatever, and Pete's like, the guy is like showing me himself as like somebody like a family member of yours, and he's like describing it, and she's like, I think you're talking about like my uncle. And then she's like, oh my God, it is my uncle. She like remembered that he would wear this like specific, like a Hawaiian shirt, like something like very specific. And she's like, he always is wearing that, but he's so scary looking. Like I never connected the dots. And Pete's like, okay, just like ask him that, tell him he's scaring you, and to like chill out and like give himself like a different form, because it's like, it's not working for you. So she said she worked with him, and now he like doesn't come as often, but when he does come, he looks like a horse.
What?
Yeah. Because I think the guy like had horses, or was like somehow like connected to horses, that she remembered. Like she only met this guy like a few times in her life, but like knew him enough. And he's somebody like in her family. I forget like who he is exactly. Mom's side, dad's side, I don't remember. But she said now he has like a horse head. But she said it's like not as scary. Like she can actually like deal with it. And like he still like talks to her and stuff, but like she can like hear the message. And she's doing a lot of like work on it to like set boundaries with like the spirits, because she said she'll just be like, she likes to walk, like she'll go on walks in like the neighborhood, and like she'll see somebody from in the distance, and then as they get closer, she's like, oh, it's like not actually a person, that's like a spirit. And then they like will talk to her and like try to tell her things and like whatever, and she like freaks out. But now she kind of like, I don't know, I think she's like doing better with it. But like we were talking about alcohol before, she was going through a really, really tough like time, and she was just self-medicating with alcohol all the time, because when she would be like drunk, they wouldn't come to her. So like that's how she was like dealing with it. This is like before she really like opened up. And we were just like, she's got a problem. Like something's going on here.
Oh.
And then she was like, that's like, this is kind of like why I'm drinking so much. Cause like, then they don't bother me. Like it doesn't happen. Like nothing happens like when I'm like drunk. So it was like, I can't imagine having to like not have the support, you know, like live like that and not have anybody be able to like understand, you know. And then you have to deal with, even if like okay, now you're an adult and it's like, okay, I have friends or whatever that like understand, like you still have all of your childhood like programming that you have to like break through just to even live. Because I'm like, you could do this, like you could do medium, like you could do it. And she's just like can't even like comprehend, because she just can't get out of her own like head of, you know, like just how it was handled when she was being raised. Yeah, it's wild.
The horse, did it look like an actual horse head, or was it like one of those funny horse head masks?
I think it looks, she says it.
Because I could get into the funny horse head mask ghost.
She says it looks like a real horse.
Oh, that's
like horse.
terrifying.
Yeah, but like
Those
for
eyes,
whatever
no, thank
reason,
you.
no thanks. I know, but you know, I think spirit comes to you in all different ways, and it's like for her, that's like fine. Like it's like kind of like how she like relates to the dude, and she was just like, okay, like I can handle this more than like this like terrifying like face, you know?
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and end the episode here. Thank you all so much for joining us to tell your stories, and thank you to everybody who's out there listening. We'll catch you for the next episode.
Love you. Happy
Thank you.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween. That was a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to put that in the episode.